can have a look at the other side is that our side has taken a whole cohort for granted, and for the last 8 years not really focused on, not listened or focused on what they want.
Well, it's both. It's a mess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's if
mm-hmm.
Guys, we're ready to go live.
Good.
All
now,
right.
Have you got your topic? You know what you're doing?
Nah. Understanding the cycles of business. Yeah, we're good.
So, sorry, because I've been in tech land, I just need to reorient myself. It's PACHA? What's our...
I thought we might do this without using the catch-all words. What do you guys want to do?
Yep. Yeah. So how about I just introduce and just say we're starting off by Marti bringing in, one of the principles to begin. And as was described, it was around timing and cycles. But that's my, very brief overview. Then let Marti explain it.
Yep.
And then go from there. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Surround sound, just in case you didn't hear me the first time. Good morning, everyone. We are only 6.5 minutes late, thanks to just a few minor technical things and issues in the background. Welcome. This is our first LinkedIn Live for 2025. Can someone...
that's me. Sorry.
Can you mute that, please?
Yeah. I'm trying to.
Great. So first LinkedIn Live, welcome. Nothing like a bit of tech issues on a Thursday morning to get started. But anyway, here we are, which is great. Marti, Spiegelman, Steve, Sandor, and myself welcome you and hope that you're excited because we are. Last year was really fascinating. I just want to give a little context here. Last year was really fascinating in watching how these conversations evolved and unfolded and the topics, how they flourished and what threaded through them all. And we finished on a really lovely note, and there's so much amazing content from last year. Today is the first of 2025, and we decided to step back and take a different approach. Marti is going to introduce a topic and a principle, effectively, that then we apply to our modern day world and life. And you would have read in the description, perhaps, that it was all around this timing or cycles. When I read a little bit about it from Marti, I took it as being like how we operate within cycles and the cycles and timing of life, whether it's in our business life, in nature, within ourselves. So what's going to happen is Marti will describe it, and then Steve is going to ask the questions. We're here for 30 minutes, so I've got to shut up. I'll be in the background, and I'm going to let these amazing people take it away.
Great. Thanks, Av, very much. Really good to be with everybody again, with you, Steve, for the start of a new year of these incredible conversations. So what I thought we might do is, over the coming weeks and months, work our way through what I consider to be the core principles of consciousness. And I'm not going to use any of the indigenous words. I want to put this in plain English, and I'm sure, Steve, you're going to agree with me in that. As we want to bring this to you, our listeners and our colleagues, in a way that really works for you in everyday language and everyday images and ideas. And so basically these principles, they start with maybe imagine a point in space and time. Yep, a point. And that point is you. It's a coordinate in space and time. And that is actually the first principle, to show up as we are ourselves, here and now, not anywhere else, not where do I have to get to, just completely present here, now, present, awareness flowing into the world around us. And that's the beginning. That pure presence, pure availability is also a state of knowing everything as it is. So you know where you are, you know what you stand for, you know what you're connected to. There's no doing here. It's a state of being. And one of the big things that comes from this state of being, it's active, it's not passive. I want to make that very clear, is in that active engagement through your awareness, through your full presence, you start to begin to be aware of, we say in English, where you are in the cycles of your life, where you are in the cycles of business. And you begin to experience that everything, including yourself, has not just one cycle, but many cycles. We have one long lifetime. That's one of our cycles or timings. And within that one lifetime, we have smaller timings, smaller cycles that comprise the whole thing. And a business is the same way. You've got that vision of what your business is always growing into. That might be the big cycle. And within that, there are smaller cycles. There are things you create for your clients that work for a few years and then they need to evolve. So you go from one timing to the next to the next. And one of the most important things in our world today is realizing that things come to an end, but not a dead end. When a timing is coming to its close, imagine you've started a business project, right? As that timing comes to its close, you've not only created let's say a service or a product, you've given a lot of value to your clients who are growing in return. There's a lot of knowledge and momentum that gets built up during that timing. And as that timing comes to a close, there are two things that happen. One is there are energies that bring that timing to its completion. And we've all felt this in our business. There's something God, I really love doing that, but somehow it's not working anymore. It's not that it's not working. It's that it's coming to the end of its timing. And if we're paying attention, there's a new momentum that has been building the whole time that will leap us into the next iteration of what we've done, or leap us into a new idea that's an evolution of what we've done. So every timing builds up not just knowledge and power, but it builds up the momentum to create the next one. And this is a principle of consciousness. This is how consciousness works. But we started with that point in space and time. We have to be present as we are, where we are, in order for us to take advantage of the power, the principle of timings. So that's a very brief, general introduction. And Steve and I are going to bring this to the runway level for you. Steve, what does that do for you?
Oh, again, it opens up so many questions, Marti. And I'm like, there's so many threads I'd like to pull on. The being part, when I've ever been involved with personal development, sort of manifestation, imagination, thinking, goals, setting, all those sorts of things. There's when I have this, I'll do that, and then I'll be something, and then they flip it, and then they go, no, you be, do, have. So you act as if you're in the moment and you're experiencing the emotions of the goal or the aspirations that you have. So that's, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on where does conscious awareness sit in that whole, personal development ethos. And does it have any resonance there? Is it is it an and statement or an or, a movement, if you like? Mm-hmm. But when people go into business, the natural thing is that why do you go into business? You're good at what you do. You're a good technician. You think you can do it better than the situation. You think you can create a situation that is better than the one that you're in at the moment, and will serve the people who you are serving better because you have control of that. And maybe, you don't like the way that the boss is doing it, so you want to do it your way. And then there's this element of, because I'll be in business for myself, I'll have all the freedom. And we all know that, you still have a boss. It's just, they're just called a client. And you still have things that you need to do because, you need to get your marketing and your sales and your operation, blah, blah, blah. So yes, you have freedom in terms of how you spend your time. You're not being dictated. And what you're trying to do, the work that I do is I try to get people to focus on a particular area that they're really good at and delegate to people. So at the core of that is this concept of growth. For the last 100 years, the world has been growing. Everybody focuses on growth. So my question is, what's the difference between evolution and growth? And do we fixate on growth? And is that where, this is my view, I think we fixate on growth, not on evolution. And so therefore we feel inadequate because we are not, and we're continually comparing ourselves to others and going, I'm not growing as much. I should be growing. Why? My question is always, why do you want to grow? So I'd just love your take on, there's a couple of points that I wanted to make and just love your take on those.
Yeah. Oh, those are fascinating. So let's do the growth versus evolution question. And I'm going to be leaping into a few other little principles here. I think you've hit on something really important because in the modern world, there's this idea of I want more. Can I have more of what I have? I want more, more, more. We want to multiply the same thing that we have. Yeah. And there is a kind of relationship principle in the technologies of consciousness that when you learn how to activate it, it does exactly that. It amplifies what you have. And sometimes we do want to amplify what we have, but it doesn't create new stuff. And so if all I do is amplify what I have, there isn't going to be any evolution. And if I'm in business and I just want to do more of what I'm doing, pretty soon I'm going to find I don't have any clients because the client base is evolving. The world is evolving. Things are changing. People's needs change. And so I think we really need to look at evolution. And of course, what I want people to understand is that consciousness itself is always evolving. And so instead of growth versus evolution, the way consciousness comes at this is that there are certain kinds of relationships that amplify what we have, good stuff that we have, amplifying your services and so on. And there's a different kind of relationship that we craft in order to create something completely new. And for business, you need to master both of those. All right, now that's a little bit advanced, but I think it's really important. We need both growth and evolution. And we move to evolution at the end of one of these timings. The whole idea of timing is, I created something. Cool. Let's grow it and see how big an effect, a positive effect we can create. While that thing is growing through its timing, what it's doing is creating new energy, new wisdom, new power, all kinds of really good stuff, but it's also creating a momentum that will take us to the next iteration or the evolutionary step. And most people don't know how to recognize that new energy that comes with every timing. We're looking at oh my God, the numbers are getting smaller. We follow the other energy that naturally closes a timing, and we come back down to the runway and say, whoa, what now? And most people start at square one again. But when we learn to track the energies of one of these things we're calling a timing today, then growth and evolution are what we deal with. And how do we find that information? We find it by, I'm coming back to the first point, being present. Being completely here now, not someplace else. And you were asking
I can
about,
see. So go.
yeah, I was just going to say, you were asking about personal development and all these things we talk about. Really, when we open up consciousness in the way that we do in indigenous cultures and the way I do in my trainings, the very first thing, and this is human knowledge, the very first thing you have to do is get to know yourself. You have to bring your awareness to you. Who are you? What are your gifts? What's your essence? What do you need in order to be stable in the world? What do you need in order to meet a challenge? Where's the part of you that celebrates? You have to really know yourself. And as you develop that kind of awareness, you actually develop it in relationship to the world around you. And so coming to know yourself, first part of opening your consciousness, connects you into the world in a way where you start to see cycles. You start to have an awareness of these timings that we're talking about.
What I sense is that requires a certain amount, like to be present, I'm in the moment now, and my brain is, because of the environment that we're in, my brain is thinking about the next question to ask to keep the conversation going. But I want to be present, listening exactly to what you're saying so that I get the message, right?
Yeah.
So there requires a pause for me to, really absorb what you're saying, pause, and then move into the curiosity question. And in the meantime, I'm juggling things because, I'm writing things down as you say them in that moment. So there's what that brought up for me was in that to be present requires a certain level of patience. It requires a certain and there's a tension then in business because patience is seen as stagnation, right? We've always got to be moving forward. And the experience I've had with entrepreneurs particularly is they are quick starts. They'll come up with an idea and they'll wonder why it hasn't been implemented 3 minutes later by the team that they've just expressed it to. I'm being harsh on entrepreneurs, but it's a brilliant. The most successful ones that I've ever worked for have had that at one of their strengths is that they see opportunities and they move quickly.
Yeah.
But they also create chaos as they do that necessarily, right? Necessarily, because I think that's the point that you're making is this, they are creating and evolving things, but there is a certain frenetic behavior that causes, and it disrupts people, so people don't like change. So how does one, like a business owner, who, if you recognize that that's a trait of yours and it's a strength of yours, how do you recognize that or reconcile the need to be evolving and be patient and be present? How does one reconcile that whole process?
Yeah. Oh, we're doing good today, Steve. So, so patience, I'm going to say something radical. Patience is time bound. If I feel like time bound, patience occurs within measured time. And what looks like high speed creativity is not time bound. So when you get a download,
can you say that again? Can you say that again? What?
Yeah. So when you get a download about your client, you get some brilliant idea. It comes in. It seems like it comes in at the speed of light because it actually does, and it's not coming because something happened. If this, then that. Here's my download. It doesn't show up that way. It's instantaneous knowing. And every human being is wired with this capacity to know instantly. And in the traditions, we say that's not bound by time. It's not linear. It just shows up. If you want a word, it's quantum. I don't know. So high creativity is not bound by time. It just shows up. It's not causal. Yeah. In the world that we live in today, most people are living in what I'm going to call for a moment the causal level of reality. If this, then that. Here's my list: 1, 2, 3. Hang on a minute. Hold that download of yours because I'm only on step 2 here. And that's just the world we live in, right? So this is, I work with my people a lot on this because the consciousness itself would say that none of this is a problem at all. It's not a problem. It's just a matter of what level, what dimension your awareness is working in. To get tasks done, we kind of step into A to B to C, because that's a dimension of consciousness. It's perfectly valid. Mm-hmm. But if we can only know the world at that level, when somebody comes in with a quantum download, it can feel like a disruption to us. So if I'm a super brilliant entrepreneur and I'm in this download quantum hoop-de-doo genius of mine, I would do well to get to know something about the way my staff is working through at the level of causality. I want to learn how to behave and deliver my incredible genius in a way that does not cause them chaos. It's not a given that has to happen. So I would want to know myself how to work with my own genius downloads, how to develop and plan things and get stuff to a point where I can call my staff in and say, here's a more fully developed version of this amazing download I had yesterday. Let's talk this through. So what we're talking about are people who are working in different dimensions of consciousness and using their awareness differently. And if we don't know anything about this, it's going to clash all the time. But the person working at higher speeds, I'm sure, has the capacity to understand these different levels. So that would be my big, the easiest piece of advice that I could give.
Right. So basically, again, it comes back to personal awareness. So understanding the environment around you, reading the room maybe is a Western way of doing it.
Yeah.
You're sensing energy, you're sensing friction, and we'll come to frameworks or processes, because I know the Overlord is about to enter the room.
Already?
Because we're hitting the bottom of, we did start a few minutes late, but so again, it just comes to really being aware of yourself and understanding the impact that you're going to have on on the environment around you, whether the stakeholders, so it's similar. The nice thing about that is it's very similar to what people know in the Western world, right? So it's not that dissimilar, but it's the execution, I think, is probably different. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. What I would say is that the genius entrepreneur needs to know about themselves, but also learn a little bit about how consciousness works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you develop some skill with your own awareness, and you understand some things happen in certain, what I call dimensions, and other things happen in other dimensions. So it's not all I am judging or reading the room. It's, this is how consciousness works. And I've just had some high-speed input, and I'm going to develop that, and I'm going to leave my people to do their jobs, which happen at a different pace, a different wavelength. And I won't disrupt their process just because I feel so smart.
Yeah, well, again, so we don't have time to unpack any of this yet, but trust, ego, control, all of these things that business owners feel as though they need to have in place. Control is something that, well, I'd love to unpack that in a future
Good topic.
discussion. But
Yeah.
because here, my view, and maybe whether it's right or not, is my view. It is your business. You need to be in control, but you can be less controlling. So you still need to be the captain of the ship, if you like, right? And to
there's a
set
technology to that.
be, whether it's the chief of the village or, the head of the organization or the head of the family or whatever, but you have a role to play in this situation.
Yes.
And I love how you talk about everyone in the village has a particular role to play, and it's the elders who transfer that knowledge to, through wisdom, and then that becomes someone finds their strength, and then that is encouraged to grow, and then they find their place in that village to contribute. If you think, if you just insert business right into that conversation, it's find the strengths and weaknesses of people, encourage their strengths. What is it that you've got in your organization, help them delegate, support, all those sorts of things. So I'm excited about
it's that every strength is required for the success of the whole, not just, I'll encourage that. No, I need you. The business requires you. So I'm going to help you grow your gift because you have to give it into the business so I can continue to support you becoming you. That's villages. Everyone is required. And it's not the elders deciding who does what. And this is what we're going to unpack when we unpack control. It's a matter of, if I am controlling, my ego is informing me. If I'm the leader, I'm being informed by something bigger.
We've already identified about 8 topics to continue the conversation. So let's just close this off, if we can, through understanding the cycle. So, so at its core of what you're talking about, if I understood it correctly, is understanding that we have this need, this human need to feel as though we're moving forward. We interpret that as growth as well. However, and not but, it's an evolution that we need to be aware of, consciously aware of. And when that moment of enlightenment, when that moment of brilliance, that consciousness, that download of data arrives, it's then being able to express that in a way that creates a positive situation for the people around you, as opposed to creating chaos. Is that too Western speak?
I'm going to separate out, because we're actually talking about two things. Let's say I have my brilliant download and I develop it enough that I can give it, present it to my staff, and we plan out how to implement it. So that's the beginning of the cycle, the timing. And we implement this brilliant idea and we grow it. And we actually are evolving it as we're implementing it. Maybe it's a new service for our clients. And as we are delivering this service and developing it as it goes, we're learning more and more and more. If we're smart, we're learning. This is why we need to learn from our clients. And eventually that service will hit a level of expression or delivery where, if we've been listening to the whole process, if we've been paying attention, we'll realize, we can leap to the next iteration of this thing. And at that moment, what's happening is the first timing is closing itself. And there's a whole bunch of new energy and information that we can instantly leap to start the next iteration, the next level of service, something like that. And you don't want a download about something else to interrupt one of these timings. You want to set these timings up so they grow and evolve as they're growing. Everything grows. Think of something in your garden. It's a seed, it germinates, it sprouts, it grows, it's making leaves and flowers and all this stuff. And at some point it comes to its end, but by then it's already made seeds for the next round. Yeah. Now the seed is our metaphor for the genius download, and those can come in at any time. But as a business owner or somebody running a team, you don't want these big flashes to interrupt a really healthy cycle that is growing and evolving itself as it goes.
And that was, sorry, Overlord. That was again, another point that I was thinking about was, when is too soon? When do you, because sometimes it's like, don't fix it if it ain't broke type thing. And I guess we can look at that as well as to the timing of that whole evolution or process.
Wonderful conversation. We've hit our time limit, and for those that are watching or listening, we are going to be continuing recording, but not on live. So we're going to be now taking some threads that came out of where we're at now. We're going to go and record, and those that are members of our 6-star community, even free members, will get access to that recording. Okay. So we're going to say farewell to our LinkedIn Live viewers. We will see you in a fortnight. And if you do want to get access to all of these, then please join our community. The links will be in the LinkedIn page. And I think what we're going to do now is, for me, the notes that I took, I want Marti to then take us through, and maybe Steve can be the guinea pig, but take us through how to recognize when that energy is closing and how to recognize. And that's what we're going to go into in a deeper level now for the next 10, 15 minutes. So
it's a classic FOMO. You miss out now, but you got to come later, right? But it's free, right?
That's right. See you, folks. See you next time.
Bye.